I was requested to make a 360 millimeter sakimaru yanagiba inspired champagne saber. It actually wasn't that specific, but I was requested to make a champagne saber, and I had a lot of creative freedom, so I decided to make it as stylish as possible. I actually don't know much about champagne sabers in general, so I went to Revel in Tucson to learn more about how they're used, how they're held, how they're supposed to feel, and that kind of stuff.
I'm Todd Getzelman. I'm owner and operator of Revel Wine Bar here in Tucson, Arizona. We do kind of everything wine related, a little bit of food, a little bit of wine.
Awesome. Here's the saber.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the nice thing about sabers, sabering champagne, you can kind of use anything you want. The trick really is kind of the technique and the physics behind what's going on. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool. But yeah, this is the one we've been using for about the last 6 years. It's showing its age, but still doing a good job. Champagne bottle or wine bottle, they're molded in halves basically. So there's two seams on either side. So one here, one here. They're hard to see, but you can feel them actually with your finger. So yeah, just kind of guiding that. So there's basically that, this seam is a weak point in the glass, and there's also a weak point kind of as this rim goes around here. So when these 2 points intersect, that's basically like the weakest point in the whole bottle. So what we're trying to do is we're just trying to create a crack. So as the saber or edge or whatever you're using kind of connects here, you're just creating a crack, and the pressure in the bottle kind of exploits that crack and just kind of takes the top of the bottle off.
Makes sense.
Yeah. We found over time the secret to sabering is kind of keeping a straight follow through. So you don't really want to swing this way. You want to kind of smoothly go through almost like a golf swing in a sense.
Interesting.
So, it's just the more control you have over the blade, the better, but still a little bit of weight. So, there's smaller things. You can use wine glasses. I've seen people use iPhones, all kinds of stuff.
Does like the weight and the feel of it matter to you really like that much?
A little bit. Like I said, I'm used to this one. When I use other things, you can use kitchen knives. Like I said, you can use all kinds of different things. Sometimes it's a little more challenging using a different kind of implement, but like I said, it's once you get used to it and then kind of having a good solid weight right in the middle as you're connecting with the bottle, it seems to help a lot.
Yeah.
You want to do one real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
Basically, you keep the blade flat, the bottle about a 45-degree angle, and just see, just like that, and it actually takes the entire top of the bottle off.
It seems fairly straightforward as far as design. Then it's kind of just you got a lot of creative freedom.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I said, I think that the weight of it is going to be somewhat important because too light of a weight blade, you want that little bit of kinetic energy to kind of take it through.
Yeah.
But after that, you're pretty good to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So thank you to Todd at Revel for showing me his champagne saber and the ergonomics and the technique, weight, and the balance and how they're supposed to feel. It gives me a lot of good ideas on where to go. And of course, I like to overthink the simple stuff. So this is going to be a single bevel. It's not going to be hollow grind on the back, but it's going to be a single bevel. This thing's already profiled and heat treated and it's ready to grind. It's stainless, and in general, we've found that stainless tends to warp and twist a lot more when you're grinding it. And because I'm making it a single bevel, it's probably going to twist and bend like a banana. Now it's time to grind this thing, see how it does, test it on some bottles, and go from there. I'm a dumbass.
You need to do both sides.
I just made it a lefty.
I know.
I need to go on the other side.
I know.
Hey, how embarrassing is that? Hang on. I even thought, I was like, lefty, righty, I got it. It'll still be within spec. It's supposed to be 40 millimeters tall, and I gave it a little bit extra width in the first place.
That's fortuitous.
Oh my god. That was... It's supposed to be a righty, and I decided to make this a single bevel.
Oh, yeah.
And I just went in and just ham-hogged it lefty.
Son of a bitch.
Okay, so just grind it flat and then go to the other side. Make it a righty so that it goes that way, not this way. Okay.
Okay, now this side. This side.
Okay, so since last time I had ground the wrong side of this, so I did not get back down. Thankfully, I left plenty of margin and it's still within spec. Skipped a bunch of steps. You guys have seen me make knives and finish them out and stuff like that. This is pretty much getting ready to do the edge geometry. It's not really an edge, but I'm just gonna call it as such. So it's time to start dialing what I want the edge to look like and make good contact with the bottles. These are just some bottles that I had laying around. I'm just looking at like the geometry towards that lip, and I want to make sure that I'm getting good contact there. So most of these champagne sabers that I see, I don't think they have any detailed geometry like built in. It's just a blunt edge. You tilt it up, make sure you get a lot of good force into it. The problem that I see with that is with these, there's a certain angle to the lip and there's a radius to it. So I've heard multiple times that you have to basically lift up and raise the angle of the blade a lot. But when you do that, you're losing a lot of the force because a lot of it goes into the rotation and you get, you know, like it's not a direct application of that force. So I kind of want to over-engineer this. It's the fun part for me. So if we're looking at the lip on these things, don't judge these wines. This is a de-alcoholized one that I tried and it was abysmal. Don't ask me anything about it. I wanted to get this for the shop to do some testing, but whatever. You'll see that there's an angled part to the lip. It's not perfectly 90, and then there's a radius that goes up to it. So my thought is I can kind of account for that geometry and build in the edge to make better contact with the lip. I've measured a few of these bottles. They all seem pretty consistent. With this radius right here, there's a step there, and it's about 70 thou off of the flat right here. So 70 thou that kind of need to account for, because I don't want the edge riding up in that radius. I want good contact with the lip itself. And the lip is about a 7-degree angle. I feel like I don't have to get it exact because all of these are gonna have some variance. So I think getting it close enough is probably actually close enough. What I've been thinking is basically we have this radius right here. I need to make a sort of bevel so that I don't contact the inside of that radius and I make good contact with here. And then I could bias the edge a little bit to give it that 7-degree angle or whatever. Or if you take 90 subtracting by 90 subtract 7, that's about like an 83-degree angle, something of that nature. So if I just draw what I think the edge will be, they're gonna hold it off at around, what angle would they hold it off? 15 to 30 degrees? I don't know. I'll decide that. And then basically make a little micro bevel here, and then the edge right here, you're gonna have something of that nature, if that makes sense at all. But basically, I want good contact with this flat section of the lip right there. So I figure if we're holding a blade at roughly a 30-degree angle and account for that 67-degree angle there, I kind of just put it up to the work wrist right here. And I'm just gonna put a little tiny bevel at the edge. It's not gonna be much, but it's gonna be there. And then I'm just looking in the light to make sure that I have a decent width, because I don't want it too thin. Okay. Just double check that with the bottle. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so I've got this all set up. Got the $6 special right here. The cap was actually starting to come off on us, so we're gonna have to do this pretty quick. I'm just gonna try it. I've got the angle in. I'm probably overthinking it. Really, a blunt edge is just gonna, but I don't know. I like to overthink things like this. Please don't explode on me before I've actually whacked it. And then the technique that I remember, follow the seam, raise the blade up a little bit, and just go for it. And instead of a swiping motion, it's kind of like a push. So let's just try it. 1, 2, 3. All right. That was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah. Why didn't it bubble?
I don't know.
It was just too.
I mean, it worked. I think the edge could be a little thicker, but other than that, like, it held up. It did the thing.
Did break it off.
That was a kind of a clean break. Did I make this too sharp? Well, $6 special. It's fine. Sam said it tasted like sour apple juice, and I kind of agree. So if I'm looking at the geometry right here, the blade did get scratched up a little bit, like right on the top side. So like that's where this top piece came off of, right there. And there's a tiny, tiny dent. You won't even get it on camera, but there's a tiny, tiny little deformation. But I don't think that's a problem. I'm just gonna go and keep the angles, but just beef it up. And that might be good enough. I thickened up the edge a little bit. I did one really quick test and it like effortlessly just popped the whole lip off. It popped the lip off, Jesus Christ. So I'm just gonna do a little bit more testing on these just to make sure the edge holds up.
I think the label's fucking it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, yeah, like it just came off really easily. And that's without any pressure in the bottle. And supposedly these are all about the internal pressure in the bottle. Yeah, it just comes off. So, I don't know. I feel like that's probably fine. I'm getting ready to shape the handles on these. These are all done. The blades are all done. We've glued them on. Actually, before gluing, I finished all the edges. So like the flats on here are all square. They're done up to 1200 grit. And all the internal chamfers are done. So they're all glued. They're ready. We've nail polished the ricassos. So that just helps protect the ricasso, because you can tape all you want, but as you're shaping this, the tape's just gonna peel off and then you get really, really coarse abrasive dust under there. And then if you wipe it, you're just scratching the living hell out of that area. So this is just a pro trick that we do. And now I'm just visualizing where the internal pins line up, because we have a combo of smooth pins for the indexing and threaded pins for the strength. Kind of a pain in the butt, but I like these knives to look really minimal, and I don't like seeing visual pins on most of them. So I'm just lining these up and just looking at like, okay, how far do these go? This one doesn't go too far, so I can grind basically almost till I hit the liners. The threaded pins are longer, but they're a little bit further back, so I don't have any concern of punching through the holes at all. We try to drill the holes pretty close so that there's not a lot of extra open space internally. And then they're pocketed a bunch. They're pocketed inside so that the ironwood can get epoxy contact to every other piece in there. So these are strong internally. They've got the chamfer, so when things shrink and expand, there's no sharp edges. It's got a nice ease little fit up in there. And the nail polish is dry, so it's time to shape. I'm gonna basically rough this out on the grinder, and I just grind until I get pretty close to the liners. I'm using the liners as my visual guide, basically. That's why these handles are a lot easier than, say, a completely hidden tang with a block that I have to scribe out like the center line. This just is so much easier to see where center is and how far to grind. So I'm just gonna block it out, cut my 4 corners, and then I'm gonna feel, see what feels good and where I need to take off more material, and then just get relatively close. And then once it's close enough on here, finish it up on there. And then once it's done on there, finish it by hand. And then they're done. I finished all the rough shaping. I've got it climbed up on the disc to 600. It's now ready for 1200, the final one that we go on the disc. This is the scariest part because now the shapes are so close, and if I slip at all, it'll just take so much work to kind of fix. And I have to be really careful not to like accidentally dig into the edge, into the blade or anything like that, because that would be absolutely catastrophic. And this one's even exaggerated because it's so big. This acts as a weird like counterweight. So I have to be really, really careful as I'm edging up close to these edges here. So this is 1200. Got our trusty little sandpaper knife. $1200's on. So now I'm just gonna, I guess, go for it. What I do a lot on these is I usually place it by hand, find my angle, the disc is off, and then I very carefully just turn on the machine and hold this steady. So the idea is I'm floating it there, I hold my angle, then once it starts going, then I can apply pressure. But like I said, this is so heavy on the other side that it's hard to keep it steady, so I kind of just have to hope for the best. When I'm like on my game, I could just have this going and I just like put pressure there and I just can feel wherever the angles are. But when I'm not feeling so confident, it's trickier. And so I do the start-stop method. So find my angle, apply pressure, hold it steady, and turn on. Check my work. That face looks good. Now for the diamond face. Check my work. Looks good. Top bevel. Looks good. And I'm basically just looking for like where the dust is coming off. So if it comes off a clean face and there's no dust sitting on the facet, I know I'm hitting flat onto there. When I see dust on a certain edge or a certain side, then I know I'm not hitting it square on. See, right there, it comes off a little lighter. There's dust there. I can hit here harder. More pressure there. Now it comes off all even. There's a little bit back here that I can hit more. I think it's all at 1200. I just look at it in the light and just see If there's any weird stretches, low spots, extra little faceting, make sure there's no like uneven areas. And I'm just double checking for symmetry also, like here and here, this point and this point. I'm looking at the width from like the top edges to the liners. Make sure it all looks symmetrical. I'm just looking for everything to look crisp. The cleaner we can get off the disc here, the cleaner and tighter things will be after hand sanding. We want to minimize as much hand sanding as possible because the more work we do by hand, the more it muddles the lines. And this looks good to me. I'm just feeling it. Feels good. This thing feels awesome. I love the way this feels. I want one for myself, even though I have absolutely no use for it. I'm gonna swing it at everything. Wrong drawer. I was like, where are my knives? So the knives are finally done. I am super happy with how these turned out. And also, I didn't even mention, but we're making a matching gyro with the champagne saber. Hence why there's two of them and they have matching materials. So these materials are basically the theme of the restaurant. It's a military green, it's black G10, and then ironwood, because they're both actually from Tucson, Arizona, which is really cool. They requested the wood and then something going on with the dark green and the black. So this is what I kind of came up with. Really like how these turned out. This one was a really fun project, especially the testing. And then this one is matching the theme, but chef's knife, it's a lefty actually, which is kind of rare. We don't make lefties that often. It's been a long time since we made something like this, where it's our signature tapered hexagon handle, full tang, kind of done up to the moon. The fit up is exactly where we want it, where all the pins are super tight and it just comes together really, really well. And then hand finishing it all out. It's kind of been a joy to work on these. Hopefully they like these. It's time to basically sharpen up this one for the last final touch, wrap them up and get them to New York.
Yeah, well, welcome to the Lower East Side. Let's get in here, you guys. Welcome to 63.